2008. Because the Sarbanes-Oxley announced in the 2003, so I just collect internal control weaknesses between 2004 and 2003. Okay, so just the 37% didn't have any breach and weaknesses. Just 16% of firms experienced breaches, and 11% of firms experienced weaknesses. But the small number of firms experience both breaches and weaknesses. It's just I ignored that kind of firms. Just I put those things. Okay. Okay, so next is the breaches. This chart shows that the breakdown of types of breaches. I categorized breaches into the 3 types: the integrity and availability and confidentiality. The integrity includes some virus or program or the system errors. The availability includes some site attack or virus something. The confidentiality means the data stolen or illegal selling something. So 73% is about confidentiality issues, and 18% is integrity breaches, and 9% is the availability breaches. Okay, the next is about IT control weaknesses. Here, the IT control weaknesses are categorized in 4 types: confidentiality and control issues, and reliability and integrity. Okay. Okay, so we look at the breakdown of types of breaches and types of internal control weaknesses. Then I compared the value of major variables with the firms with the breach and IT internal control weaknesses. In the first 4 variables, the compensation, pay dispersion, turnover, IT intensity, the 3 types of firms has the similar values. But in the ROA, the firms with internal control weaknesses have a lower ROA. I think I thought the internal control weaknesses included some kind of financial issues. That's why the firms with internal control weaknesses has the lower ROA something. Okay. So those are the descriptive statistics. So before I test the research model, I need to check multicollinearity problems. This table shows the correlation matrix among all variables. But this correlation matrix has the lower values, so it doesn't seem to have any multicollinearity concerns in this data. So I also tested the regression test. The tolerance is, all tolerance values are above 0.1, and all variance inflation values are less than 1.4. Those are threshold values. Okay, so we checked the correlation problem. So now we can test the research models. I simply use the multivariate logistic regressions. So I'm still working on this paper, so I try to find the complicated model to combine other effects. Just this is the first my model. Okay, so I have 4 models to test my hypothesis. The first one, the first model test hypothesis 1A. The dependent variable is the possibility of information, the security breach incidents, right? In the independent variables include the IT executive environment in a TMT, IT EXT, right? And this model has 2 control variables, right? So once a firm has IT executive in a TMT, we can check their structural status in a TMT. Then in the second model has the possibility of information security breaches as the dependent variables. As the independent variables, it has total compensation, the compensation variables, and pay dispersion, and turnover, and other two control variables. Okay. So next two models test IT internal control weaknesses with the independent variables. The dependent variable is the possibility of IT control weakness, IT internal control weaknesses. So the third model has the IT executive environment in a TMT and other control, the two control variables. In the last model, it has compensation, pay dispersion, and turnover, and other two variables. Okay, so this is the multivariate logistic regression models. Okay, so I run this model then I got this result. So in terms of the possibility of information security breaches, the research model supports 3 hypotheses, but it failed to support the last hypothesis about turnover. Right? So here, the IT executive's environment has the negative, the minus 0.36. The disease has the significant. This is the significant, right? So it means IT executive's environment means the reduction in information security breaches, right? And compensation has also the negative, the values with a significant sign. Here I put the short-term compensation and long-term compensation and total compensations. The compensation level is always significant in the all portion of compensations, right? So then the pay dispersion. This is the pay dispersion has also significant effect, but this sign is negative. I think this is interesting because I told pay dispersion means the collaboration, right? But here, the larger dispersion means decreased information security breaches. That means the larger IT executive compensation compared with the non-IT executive compensations, the decreased the possibility of information security breaches. So that means the IT executive authority is more important than collaboration, right? So next time I will talk about this again. Okay, turnover, but it has the negative sign, but this is not significant here. Okay, the result is about IT internal control weaknesses. Here, the IT executive environment also has a negative sign, the negative 0.72. This is significant. And the compensation has also negative values in all portion of compensations. But in the pay dispersion and turnover hypothesis, this model partially supports this hypothesis. They fail to support hypothesis in the long-term compensations. Just in the short-term compensation and total compensations, it works. The pay dispersion has still the negative sign. So in the IT control weaknesses, the larger IT executive compensation is the positive effect to preventing the IT internal control weaknesses. Okay, so here the turnover is the significant in the short-term and total compensations. Okay. Okay, so I explained all results about my research model.